Well, there you have it. Just a short while ago, these images of Denzel Dumfries during his medical examination to join Real Madrid under the management of Jose Mourinho. By the way, welcome. Since I hadn't said that yet, it's great that Mourinho's wishes are being fulfilled, which is how it should be. And it hasn't always been like that, especially lately at Real Madrid, with coaches who knew they had big gaps in certain areas, but had to make do with what they had. Luckily, good old Don Jose is getting his wishes fulfilled. And above all, there's the recognition that indeed, in the last 2 or 3 years, and even though last season we made some great signings and we were really excited, we still saw that there were certain positions, mind you, those spots are still there this year. Because I still believe it's essential to sign Rodri or someone like Rodri. It'll be Rodri. And now I'm talking about the Rodri issue, also because I'm worried about who would play Rodri's role. In case Rodri, well, is rotated, is given a rest, could get injured, tired, etc. But anyway, now let's get to that topic. The good thing is that the signings are strengthening Real Madrid, not only in terms of key spots and positions on the field, but also when it comes to bringing people into the locker room. And on the field, experienced players who can deliver immediate results, which is one of Mourinho's demands. And I'm absolutely in favor, because what we need is to win, and to win now. And it's all well and good to sign all these young players, hoping that maybe in 2 or 3 years they'll develop. That's all well and good. It's worked out with some, not so well with others. But here we need to sign players who can perform immediately. I think the Dutchman is one of them. Well, as I said, those images there of Dumfries at the Sanitas Clinic, not anymore. It used to be called Sanitas Clinic. Well, it's still called Moraleja, but it's in San Chinarro, if I'm not mistaken. And this is already closer to Valdebebas. In fact, it's in the Valdebebas neighborhood. And there was the former Inter football player getting it done. The photos, which, of course, the photos and the video of a medical checkup, which Real Madrid will later publish, just the usual things here, the little things attached to his body and all that. Sorry, but the presentations aren't happening. And that's something that catches my attention, because I don't know how long they're going to wait. I mean, we're already into August. In August, it's kind of weird, because August is a strange month. Even though in terms of soccer, it's quite a bit more active than July. Well, this July we had the World Cup, but you know what I mean? Soccer players are usually on vacation and so on. Everything begins in August, often mid-month or earlier, with friendly matches, tours, etc. And doing them all piled up together, I'm one of those who thinks that presentations aren't exactly unnecessary, but I also don't give them that excessive importance that some people give them, because for me, as long as they arrive, hey, announcement statement, they arrive, they play, the jersey, you can see them, move on. For me, unless the signing in question is something, well, just too spectacular, go ahead, so that it's done like that, right? For me, unless the signing in question is something spectacular enough for them to do it. I think that Madrid, not only with spectacular players, right, or the very pompous or flashy ones, with anyone, they want to do presentations that are up to the standard, because Madrid likes to show off what they buy and show it off well and do it well, and they do it very well. That's why it catches my attention that nothing like this has been done yet, but well, I guess it will be done. Let's talk about Rodri, because for me, he's the missing piece. They're also talking about a center back and about Bastoni. It's true, the thing with Bastoni, on Inter's end, that still needs to get sorted out, because Inter is waiting on signing Cuti Romero and another center back. I can't remember who right now. So they can sell Bastoni, who is reportedly eager to join Real Madrid, has already spoken with Mourinho and is wanted by him. If in the end the Bastoni deal doesn't happen, and that's my point, for me, the Rodri situation is much more important. Come on, let's see. We have center backs. We have Hausen with AT, Militao, Rudiger, and Asensio, who I think will leave, right? But we already have four. It's true that one has been getting injured. Militao is still the best of all of them. But the big question, and maybe you want to cover yourself with one more option, like Bastoni, that's fine. But if in the end Bastoni doesn't come, damn, I think we already have four. And it's not really a big deal. Some years we've had two or less. And now, after dealing with injuries and everything, we're going to have five. Because, hey, I counted again, and there are five. Hausen with AT, there will be people who say, no, Hausen isn't reliable, even less with AT after what we've seen in the World Cup. But, well, in theory, yes. I mean, maybe if we go by what we've seen most recently from both players, of course, we get a bit nervous. But if we look back a year, I mean, with AT, with Liverpool, not this season, the one before, the previous one, Hausen joined Real Madrid after his first matches. And when we saw him with the Spanish national team, we thought, what a great player we've signed. Anyone can have a bad year, but we've already seen them play really well. And then Militao and Rudiger, it's true that these two, not just Militao, also with an asterisk, the German, because, well, his contract was extended for another year, and that's how things are. And you can't fully trust them. That's why it's justified for a fifth one to come in. But hey, if not, man, I don't know. Now that I'm saying that someone could get injured later and so on, imagine that halfway through the season, you only have two left, right? Well, indeed, signing the Italian wouldn't be a bad thing, which I insist is this is no longer a secret. Mourinho wants him, and Madrid will be working on it, but Inter wants to sell. They want to buy first to make sure that the replacements are of that level, right? Of that footballing level. But I insist, the deal I'm most concerned about getting done is Rodri. I don't think things are moving that fast because besides, he's going to be out for a little while now. Now he's sidelined. It's something that needs to develop slowly because City is going to ask and Madrid is going to go. There's a complicated negotiation there, not with the player. That's already done, but there's a complicated negotiation. Also, because the Diomande deal had to be done, which isn't official yet, but it had to be sped up in the last few hours. And that's why all the attention has been on the Ivorian player. From this moment on, well, that's what I'm saying, right? The Bastoni situation and keeping an eye on it and starting to deal with Rodri's situation. And on dealing with things, it's been discussed. Recently, we mentioned there was confusion about his procedure, whether his thigh was hurting, but it's all connected. Exactly. What City has said here is that the midfielder has undergone that therapy as an outpatient. I mean, he didn't have to be admitted to the hospital. And here they say there was no need for rehabilitation. I don't know how long he'll be out. They've mentioned a month and a half, 2 months, or maybe less. And he talks about the therapy they did to release an area that was pinching his nerve when he sat down. That was what was talked about the other day, which was the first information I had about the issue, that it only bothered him when sitting down, his thigh, his glute, and not when he was playing. Well, it's obvious from the amazing World Cup he had. Of course, when you have a herniated discs, even though they sound serious, I have one, but they can be treated perfectly well. And they might not hurt again if you stretch properly, if you do what you have to do, if you take a little more care than if you didn't have it. And that's it. Sometimes it's tough because it actually affects your leg, not to mention people who suffer from it and end up with sciatica. But, well, if it's treated and all that, there's no problem. And I insist we've seen it. There are people who always use the example of, no, wait, of course, we've seen it in a World Cup, 7 or 8 games, but in a whole league season, well, sure. If we're going to be that strict about it, then we would never sign anyone. I think Madrid needs Rodri or someone like Rodri, and Rodri is the front runner because he wants to come to Madrid, because there's already an agreement with him, and because he's been saying it for a while. For some time now, he has refused to renew with City, and that's because he was indeed waiting for the call from Madrid. Madrid has always been monitoring the situation, and in the last week, well, Madrid has finally made a decision. Paris Saint-Germain has gotten involved, and it's a concern, but for me, it's not. And not because it's Paris Saint-Germain, who always comes in with a lot of money up front. Also because of Al-Khelafi's revenge, since we took Diomande from him, and at one point we took Mbappe from him too. I don't think it's a concern because even though it might make the signing a bit more expensive, the price would be set by City. They think someone with more money might show up. If the player already agreed to Real Madrid, the other option doesn't make sense. A little bit of concern because they might ask you for 10 or 20 million more, which is tough because they say Madrid doesn't want to go above 60. But that's why I say this is going to be a slow process. Madrid will settle on one amount, City on another. And I think reaching an agreement will take us right up to the last days of August. And since, in theory, the player won't be able to train or won't be fully fit to train with Mourinho, in that case, it would be tough. Hey, you have the player there who could already be at your disposal, fully ready with his teammates, and he still isn't. Well, look, if he can't even do that yet and he's still rehabbing there in Manchester or wherever he is, then that's it. It's not a big deal. I don't see it as a problem. What really worries me most about the Rodri situation is actually his replacement at Madrid. I mean, who would be the player that when Rodri rests could step in? Who would replace him in a match? Who could be there? And of course, people say, well, Tchouaméni. There's even talk about a double pivot. I don't see the double pivot, but okay. Tchouaméni, who I think would be more like effectively one or the other, never as a double pivot, although you never know. Recently, I mentioned Busquets and Xabi Alonso as examples from the Spanish national team. Both worked well, but back then Jose used a double pivot more than now. But anyway, Tchouaméni isn't the same as Rodri, they're just different. Looking at the youth academy, Sestero, as Arbeloa once said, was Spain's best number 6. I always understood that he was referring to someone Sestero's age. By the way, I saw him here in Valdebebas not long ago, and he took a picture with my son. The kid is charming, and I think he has very good qualities as a footballer. But even more effectively for that position than Thiago Peter, who I like, though I see him as a bit more of an advanced midfielder. Much more of a link-up player with greater mobility. Not so much playing that holding role. That's how I see it. If both can learn from Rodri, fantastic. But I lean more towards Sestero. Would that be enough? I don't know. There's one that Madrid sold 50% of, which is Chema Andres, who's in Germany at Stuttgart, and apparently he's doing well. And well, look, it would be perfect if he were, for example, on Real Madrid's roster to learn from Rodri and occasionally replace him. He's not. Madrid isn't going to bring him back just for this either. They would only bring him back if he really stands out in Germany. But also, he's very much that type of player, isn't he? I mean, tall, also very positional. Bueno, well, hopefully Mourinho surprises us with something and Sestero himself takes a step forward. Hey, or that he actually uses Manila, either in a double pivot or accepting a substitute role replacing Rodri. Well, let's see. Competitively, Manila has always been there, especially lately, although in terms of football, with the ball at his feet, Rodri offers much more than Manila. I care a lot about Aurelian, but Rodri offers much more. Speaking of the French, watch out because Zinedine Zidane is already the new coach of France. We already knew that. He said today in that press conference in Crèche-Fontaine that it's a dream, that he has had offers for 4 or 5 years to coach clubs, and he has turned them all down for France. This is the only thing I want to do, and I'll give everything to keep this team winning. It's my only motivation. France keeps winning matches, but when was the last time they actually won a title? Well, in that final, largely because of that huge refereeing decision in the 2021 Nations League. Since then, France hasn't won. They failed in Euro 2020, which was actually played in 2021. In 2022, the World Cup final, that's true. I mean, they've reached finals and semifinals in the big tournaments. But it seemed that with Deschamps, there was just something missing. They couldn't quite get there to beat rivals like Spain, for example. And they trust Zidane to bring that extra influence over the group, just like he had at Real Madrid. But, well, we'll see. We'll see how Zidane works with certain players and if he gets them to take that step forward, especially as a team, because they have plenty of individual talent. We wish all the best to Zinedine, whom we care about a lot, except when he faces Spain. And, well, we're really happy for him because, hey, he had the guts to say, look, I'm not coaching anyone else. For me, my life is Real Madrid and the French national team. He's gotten the opportunity with France, and we're really happy for him. And the last thing, speaking of the World Cup, what a surprise. The IFAB acknowledges the refereeing scandal that benefited Argentina. The IFAB clarifies that the literal wording of the rule about mistaken identity was meant to identify the player, but the infraction itself cannot be reviewed without being changed. Embolo was sent off for simulation after the VAR review. What we said in the first minute after this happened, because people were saying, no, according to the rules, according to the rules. In hand with the sorry here, not even. In others, maybe yes. In the disallowed goal for Egypt, going by the rules, it was also debatable because they delayed the play quite a bit so that VAR could intervene. They went all the way back to the meteorite and the dinosaurs. But, well, he says, fine, okay, I'll buy that at this point. But after this, we always said, being there in Dallas at the World Cup, that to me, it seemed like they were overstepping, and that wasn't really the spirit of the rule. It was meant to identify the player, but the infraction itself can't be reviewed or changed. And I was telling you, no, but if in that play there's a situation the referee can judge, excuse me, but that was basically re-refereeing it. It wasn't about identifying someone. You had made a mistake and then you give the yellow card to the other player. No, it was about re-refereeing it. Hey, IFAB has even said that indeed that was poorly refereed. And someone might say the same thing happened with Miguel Almiron with Paraguay and the United States. Well, yeah, damn it, but of course. But this was in a quarterfinal match. Was this already in extra time? No, it was still in the 71st minute. And man, it was really wild. It was really wild. But anyway, and then they still complain on top of that. I'm working on a video with more Argentinians saying absolute nonsense. Some from before the final, by the way, that I managed to recover, and especially those from after. I mean, they just can't get over it. There's no way. Mind you, I insist, some of them, and that's quite a few. But it's not all of them. This is always a disclaimer, because I have some very good Argentinian friends, and especially people I've also heard absolutely accepting that Spain was better and wondering what they're even talking about. That this is something we need to move on from and understand that Spain was better. Hope you all do well. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, and share. See you in the next one. Bye.